Hello, my friends. I love spending this time with you and reflecting over the past month of different events within my life and around the news. It brought me to talking to you about this topic that will honestly be the undercurrent for this year. And as you may or may not know, with being a sacred timekeeper, I do different prayers and meditations to see what the overall messages or themes will be of the year. And this one in particular is the year of wind and water. And what this means is the energetic of the sacred river, the karmic energy, is going to be one where it's going to throw and keep most things in flux. Now, most of us don't like that idea of things being in movement because it gets that sensation of loose and control, of not getting your bearings. But quite honestly, it does serve its purpose. We are in the need of change. This is the energy of change. So what I would like to just share with you today are some teachings, some thoughts that can help you, whether it be this year or at any other time, where you can feel like you are walking through a fog. And I use that example because if any of you have walked through a fog, or sometimes you experience this going through a cloud bank if you're flying in an airplane, when you're walking through a very heavy mist, suddenly you lose all points of reference. You have no idea how quickly you are moving because you have no idea in relation to other things, your speed. You may not even know if you're headed in the right direction. But one thing I promise you, if you stop in the middle of this fog, of this feeling of limbo, then pretty much you can condemn yourself to staying there or having life ram you into changes, since this is a year of movement that you have not anticipated or may not even like. Ultimately, there's always the opportunity to end up better, but I'd rather share with you today steps and teachings that will help for you to lean into, to get comfortable during those times in your life where you can feel that things are in so much movement that you can't seem to get a control or a grip, and just feeling like you're in a fog. And the first quality that I would say to you is wisdom. It doesn't matter what is moving or what is changing. Things that cannot be erased is the lessons that you've learned from your own experiences. If it's something beyond your experiences, there's that old adage that there is nothing new under the sun, just different expressions of it. So seek out wisdom from credible sources and credible people. And what wisdom does is that instead of spinning your wheels and reinventing the wheel, you can begin to determine, what is the first wisdom is, what do you value? What is important to you? And beginning through that wisdom, what has life taught you, and being fully open about it, good, bad, neutral, and seeking the wisdom and input with others. So while you are working through this fog, because it is a process of change and transformation, you begin to build up the guidelines, you begin to build up internal reference points. Does this feel good? Does this feel right? Is this choice that I'm making in alignment with how I envision turning out, how I want my life to be at the other end of this? So taking your time to gain wisdom, to reflect on wisdom, is imperative. Because if you don't, it's that saying, right? If you don't take advantage of what has been learned. So knowledge is just bits of information. Wisdom is knowing how to apply knowledge. If you do this, then you will not condemn yourself to repeating the mistakes over and over and over again. And how lovely to not repeat mistakes here in this incarnation, much less repeating them in other incarnations, right? But with that, wisdom, for all that it is useful, needs to be applied in a certain way. So, of course, in timely fashions, but as you know, my friends, I firmly believe in the energy in the heart of things. It is part of the good red road, and that is compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for all beings. So typically, when we are in these states of change, feeling like we're in a fog, there is this importance for gentleness, gentleness with yourself. It is that sense of, yes, when you're in that state of saying, I do need a little extra TLC. When I'm walking through some of the major changes or any type of change, when you're trying to restructure yourself and your life, will be impacting the lives of others. It's a ripple effect. So to the best of your ability, being kind to yourself, trying to go with mindful movement, mindful kindness to those whom you're touching, because you may not even know whose lives you touch. I can reflect back myself for many times where I've said, just a kind word, or I've done something, and for me it was a moment in time. And then years later, it comes back to me how it touched that person's heart, and that in turn inspired them to touch the heart of others. And you never know the simple actions that you do, how profound the echo will be. And I'm not saying this to have you be in a state of constant judgment or being overly cautious. Compassion is a way of being. It is kindness. It is sitting down to listen. There's just so many aspects of that. And when you begin to incorporate that as a way of walking through this fog, this time of flux and change, you can relax a little bit more, because not everything has to be hard. And it's true. Life is a mirror. What you do comes back to you. So in some way, somehow, it'll come back. But it also talks about how you wish the quality of the journey that you are walking. Which brings me to the next point that you just have to accept. And as I say, nobody likes the V word, vulnerability. There, I said it. But that's just the raw facts of it. When you are going through changes, when you are in a state of flux, when you feel that you can't, the old standards and ways of being able to understand the world or have control, I use air quotes because in truth control is an illusion. The universe belongs to itself, and about the only one you can control, and that can be a lifelong endeavor, is yourself, right? Is vulnerability. When you are in the state, it is normal, and indeed I feel necessary, to be in this raw state. Hence why the need for compassion, because when you're in this raw state, you have to acknowledge and accept different weaknesses, and at times engaging in different strengths that you may not feel comfortable in using, but are now necessary in order to be able to go forward in reinventing yourself, in order to have that momentum to be able to get to the other side of this fog that you're walking in. So vulnerability does something else that people don't consider, and it creates points of connection. So when you admit that you can't do something, and you make space for someone who has no ulterior motives, but your greatest good to help you, it creates a point of connection that is vital for us as people. We need that sense of connection. So there are times that this is not even limited to interacting with other people, but definitely that is necessary. Being vulnerable. There's been times where I've been just so overwhelmed that I don't have the strength or the wherewithal to talk to anybody or to be in the presence of anyone. And with that, I take my open heart, and sometimes it can be bleeding if I feel hurt inside, to nature, and be with the breath of Creator, to be with the winds and the birds and the waters and the trees, and acknowledging, the people and so forth that can walk by. But in that space of vulnerability, it creates an openness where with that, that honesty of that rawness, of that openness, being very selective, not reclusive, of who and what you allow to touch your heart. And with that, it also, when you're here, it can make you appreciate that others might be going through the same thing. So it also requires for you to just say you're human. You are going to be times that you're going to need to rest. There are times that you're going to need to ask for help and to sit down and take a look at, what is touching you and why. And what are you good at or not good at? And how to begin to interact with that in ways that you haven't before. Because that's the whole point of this, is to not try to force things as they were. That's not what this year of wind and water is about. Which brings me to the final point that I'll share with you today. Perseverance. Right? This is a process. So the reason why I use the word perseverance versus patience is that for me, patience is a very passive thing. All right, you sit there, you're waiting for something to happen. Perseverance is one of knowing when to interact with something or someone, knowing when to speak or when to be quiet, again, the prayer of Sky Father. And that paced determination to move through this fog. So just like when you first walked into the fog, your frames of reference begin to disappear. So you have to go internally for those frames of reference to determine how you're going to walk through this fog. Is it going to be in fear or compassion? And then that honesty of your capacities and allowing for points of connection versus withdrawal. And ultimately saying, no, I'm not going to be stuck here. This is not forever. And that perseverance, I will act when appropriate. I will rest when appropriate. I will be determined to move forward. And ultimately, you will be successful in moving through the other end of the fog. And in order to have perseverance, sharing some thoughts there too. When I say have a plan, it's great if you can have details, but it's the point of your flux. Life is what happens when you're busy making plans. But if you begin to break things down into steps with flexibility built in, that allows for you to adapt as you're moving forward. This takes a lot of pressure off, that it has to be this way when Creator and the creation would be saying, no, this is the wrong way of going at it. Try a different way. The other thing too is perseverance is that encouragement. How do you persevere? By keeping your motivation up. So use this time to learn more about who you are, how you work, what motivates you in a good way, so that, you can say, okay, today I don't know if I'll ever feel like I'm going through this fog, but I know I'm moving forward. But there's the excitement of not only what's on the other side of the state of flux, but today it could be enjoying a song, it could be talking with a friend, it could be just achieving a small step, because I'm a firm believer in celebrating all victories, the small ones that lead up to the big one. So this is, for me, some of my personal formula that I use to get through times of chaos and confusion, times of flux and change, because let's be sincere, it's all in how you look at it. So whether you love the unknown or hate the unknown, it's still true. Flux always happens when you're coming to a pivotal moment of transformation and transition. And if you participate with flux, then there is mobility that can ease you into growing into the next stage of your life's journey, of being able to touch your life purpose in ways that, had you stayed in the beforehand, and those old structures you would never be able to reach. So that's why I would say to you that, will it be tiring at times? Of course it will be. But that's why perseverance and pacing, you know, allowing for your vulnerabilities. When there's times that you need to be picked up, what helps you to be lifted? Sharing there are certain capacities that you have that others can help you with, and they love doing it, and you can help them. And going with compassion, which for me includes laughter. Don't forget to laugh at yourself, laugh at life. You know, this coyote's way of being. Don't take everything so seriously through walking through the fog that you forget that the purpose of life, in truth, really is to celebrate, to live a full life. So, my dear friends, this is what I wanted to share with you. You know, ease into times of transformation and transition, of which this entire year is going to be. Will you love all of it? No, you won't. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh yeah, it's going to be great all the time. However, what meaning will you attach to it? Will you attach to it of one of, oh my God, it's coming at me and I can't see it? Or, I can't see it, but I can participate. So I'm sending energy and creating connection. So I'm already weaving with the universe the path that's ahead of me. You're not powerless in this. Not by a long shot. So please, I hope you will join me in learning to hang a little loose during this time of flux, of upholding and uplifting each other, of finding inner truth, and connecting to that which is greater than yourself. So until we have the pleasure again, my friends, I would ask for you, please, to just let me know your thoughts. You know, and I wanted to say once again, I'm so thankful to all of you. I can't believe that I've now hit over 500 subscribers. So for those of you who have, for those of you who haven't, please do. It does a tremendous job of helping me to share this wonderful community, growing this community, sharing this information with others. And I just look forward to being with you again. So until next time, my friends, Wanishi and bright blessings. Take care.